drawing big crowds, but as more
In a town once known as Hillsborough, the Forsaken created one of their most horrific experiments, the Sludge Fens. When the Forsaken war machine marched its way through Lordaeron, the people of Hillsborough tried to flee to Arathi, but they were cut down. With no choice, they remained for one last-ditch defense. An honorable death they did not find. No, these humans found themselves rounded up and forced to work the fields of Lord Stillwater's plantation. Conditions were brutal as they farmed mushrooms for poison. Bad as it was, that would be the best they'd get, for workers began to disappear. Those humans were working the sludge fields for 15 years, planting their countrymen into the ground. That's our video today. The worst jobs in Warcraft. Those tasks so stinking difficult or downright insane that they're only forced on the most unlucky. And before journeying into any underbelly, such as the underbelly of Azeroth, you'll need today's sponsor to stay safe. NordVPN.com/Bellular Gaming. Code Bellular Gaming where you'll get a 2-year deal plus 4 months for free. Now, why do you want to get a VPN? It's simple. I use mine all the time. Watching content from other regions on Netflix and Amazon, all of that. Just use Nord's 5,000 plus servers to choose your location and use the internet as if you are there. Seriously, Japanese Netflix is pretty different. It's great. And they also keep you private. Your ISP won't know what site to use. That means they can't do scummy stuff, like selling your browsing data to advertisers. They can't prioritize, some of the types of web traffic that you use over others, which can be annoying during peak hours when you just get download throttled. They've also got Nord Locker for storage, Nord Pass for passwords. Of course, this is all in the app and the browser extension that are super easy to use. And you get that huge discount and 4 months for free at nordvpn.com/Bellular Gaming with that Bellular Gaming promo code. So, thanks to Nord for sticking with us for so long. Check them out. Let's go. Let's dive into the most horrible, just nasty, fun jobs that are going on in Azeroth. Our first job is terrible when you think about actually doing it, but the guy running this seems to love it. It's King Merkel, the Night Elf Conservationalist. Originally attempting to study Murlocs from afar, by the time we bumped into him in the Borean Tundra, he had managed to become the king of the Winterfin tribe. That means rummaging around fish guts for the prime chunks of slime that you need to navigate Murloc political life. Later, of course, he is in Azuna trying to save the violent Swamp Rock tribe, fighting to help young Murky secure a bright future. What I just want to call up here is, just think about what this Night Elf sees and does daily with the Murlocs, who are rather brutal. The fish guts, the slime. Have you ever thought about what a Murloc smells like? Now, consider that King Merkel is kind of like in a big fursuit. So just imagine what King Merkel smells like. Ouch. Straight to the bottom of the faction ladder, we have the Peasants and Peons. But man, one has it far worse than the other, so we're going to do the lucky Peasants first. The Peasants, of course, mirror their real-life medieval counterparts pretty closely, so find any video or horrible histories on the rough things that peasants had to do, and you'll get it. They exist in every human nation, tending farms, harvesting gold, cutting lumber. They own a small, tiny amount of land. They pay tithes to the local lord. In times of need, they can be called on to the front lines as militia. The Warcraft 2 manual even told us that they willingly fought the orcs, doing their part for the war effort. If you're born a peasant, outside of adventuring, you'll probably remain one. There's not much social mobility in Azeroth. The work is backbreaking, rising early, and not stopping until the mines run dry. There's pretty much no workers' rights, very little legal protections, and if that's not bad enough, you can be so close to the front line that you become a legitimate target. So in the words of Thomas Hobbes, the life of a peasant is nasty, brutish, and short. But compared to peons, they have it easy. The first proper peons were created along with the horde of Draenor. Orcs, not useful to the war machine, were put into hardcore slavery because, seriously, original horde was a nasty place to be. If you were not strong, brutal, or cunning, you would be sent into the gold mines with terrible equipment and very low prospects for survival. Of course, we've seen the lazy peons in the Valley of Trials. Might be an easy life, but there's consequences to their actions, and of course we personally incentivize them back to work in-game. Even the name Lazy Peon. There's a whole culture of thinking that peons are worthless slackers, not good enough for the honor of the front lines. But if you look back at how peons in some cases were created, you'd find that orcs that were too intelligent, or shamans too noble, or those who refused the fel were kind of forced into slavery. And that's not even thinking about the wacky stuff the old horde did with the rapid aging of children. Now, the peons are institutionalized in the horde. They are treated better than they were in the past, but there they are, swarming to get new horde bases with their fortifications. You could say that the life of a peon has gotten better. We certainly saw senior garrison peons treated with respect, but it's just not good enough. They're literally deformed from their work. Conditions are so bad that during the Fourth War, four-man Magrok revolted. Had enough. He wanted the horde to give peons more respect and better working conditions. To incentivize the peons back to work on an outpost, we threw them a feast, which they gladly accepted. But the horde leadership were, still worried about their future strike actions, so we kind of just went and kicked Magrok's head in until he promised to stop pursuing peon rights. So there you go. That's some union busting in Azeroth. A peon's life is basically worthless. It's a brutal job that doesn't really seem to have an end in sight. Gets worse. Let's take the whole idea of a bad job to its cosmic extreme. The primordial peon, the peasant of the afterlife, the Dredger. Their existence is so awful, they're literally named after their job. Dredger. Otherwise, they're called muckborn. They're absolute, the pits of the class system in Revendreth. A little Tommy from the worst Dickensian nightmare. They are dredged from muck, literally dredged from muck, to eternally serve. And when their use is done, they're recycled back into the birthing bog. That's horrible. And then it gets worse, because several dredgers can be formed into a big 'un. Blizzard's perfect analogy for Victorian class politics, where, there was only really two depictions of the working class: small, crafty servants, or monsters who fought on the streets. It's a pretty shocking life as one of these muckborn, serving or becoming muscle mass, only good for lifting and fighting. The worst thing is, these guys tell jokes. They have a sense of humor. They talk about their friends. And that means that they actually are not just little lumps of smart muck who do useful things. No, they have an inner emotional life. They understand how terrible their jobs are, and outside the odd dredger revolutionary, there's just about nothing they can do about it. Just another dredger in a line stretching back to the birth of the cosmos itself, born to serve the Venthyr until some meaningless yet brutal death claims them, and another one's scooped up out of the muck. It's not easy being an NPC in World of Warcraft, standing around all day, staring blankly as the world goes by. But being realistic, some of the service sector work has got to be suck. Big suck. And you know what it is? Portaling. Is portaling dangerous? No. Is it tedious? Yes. You have these battle-hardened magi who train their whole lives in the arcane arts, only to find themselves channeling portals all day. Some players even report watching them have 13-hour straight shifts without a break. Think about the concentration you must have to muster for that long. So, surely, to poke a little jab at game mechanics, this is one of the most tedious jobs in Azeroth. Not for the horror, but for the sheer level of suck. I mean, hey, perhaps you screw up so much in the field, they slam you back to portal duty for a month and maybe take your badge. Next up for the worst job is Gnomes. And yeah, that's not a job, but Gnomes really do find themselves in the darndest of situations. First, start off easy with Nipsey and Monty, the rat-catching brothers of the Deep Run tram. Their pretty terrible job became a necessity whenever rats infested the tramway mid-construction. A pest for humans, but a real threat for the Gnomes. I mean, those Azeroth rats are pretty big. So, Gnomes began dying, and Nipsey and Monty got the job of cleaning the place up, with Gnomish brilliance dictating that they may as well turn the rats into kebabs to make some money on the side. With hearths, wormholes, and portals aplenty, they're probably just languishing in a rusty old subway station, stuck with really not that nice old rat kebabs. It's not great, but it gets a lot worse. In the Burning Crusade, to show a dark edge to the Blood Elves, there's a gnomish sweatshop in Silvermoon. These gnomes work for Clean Sheets, a famous Blood Elf tailor who uses a succubus to head up his gnomish labor division. They weave and cut the cloth for Silvermoon's finest, and it must be some pretty brutal work because, even with a succubus involved, when you visit, there's 2 gnomes passed out in cages and a 3rd one crying. That's just lovely, but it gets worse for the gnomes. In the freezing depths of Dragonblight is the forsaken outpost of Venomspite. Speaking of spite, 2 enslaved gnomes keep the town's time, with one, Broti, announcing the even hours, and the other one, Scroty, announcing the odd hours. Yeah. The Forsaken War Machine marches to a very strict schedule, and it's an intense, round-the-clock job to keep everything going. You can in fact visit these 2 gnomes at any time, and they will announce the hour while telling you how pissed off they are about their lot in life. Ironically, it seems that Scroty convinced Broti to join the Forsaken, believing they can make a lot of money. But no, it just landed them one of the worst jobs in Azeroth. Stuck there, telling the time, hour by hour, every day since the war in Northrend. Talking about gnomes, you just know the goblins have got to one-up them. There's just something about their exploitative mentality that keeps landing them in the worst of situations. It's a hard life for an aspiring goblin scientist like Assistant Greeley, who tried to make his name by harvesting a Sharite. No, he was not an early adopter of Fourth War technology. A Sharite is actually poop from the local mountain giants. It's also highly explosive, so Greeley spends his time thinking up increasingly inventive ways to get the giants to poop so that he can make better bombs. Yeah, so he's a professional shit collector and shit exploder. Taking terrible jobs to their grim extreme, goblins have even found a way to turn their own kind into hobgoblins. Now you might just think, oh, hobgoblin, that's a mob I kill sometimes. No, they are these massive, stupid, and incredibly loyal beings that are very loyal to the goblins who make and employ them. They're used for hard labor, they're used as mounts, they're used as mule bank services and guards. But the worst part is, they're just goblins pumped up with funky chemicals, completely dehumanized, or degoblinized, I suppose, and made to do some of the worst jobs in goblin society. Wrapping up the madness of terrible goblin jobs, of course, are the sappers. You know, the idea is that they'll go and plant a really big bomb and complete an objective. They're trained in their own goblin-y way to undermine walls or destroy important objectives. In practice, of course, their erratic behavior and very dubious technology probably leads to a near 100% attrition rate to the sapper's corps. One of the most recognizable bad jobs for its boringness, grimness, and dreariness is the Cockroach Seller Jeremiah Payson. He's had as tragic a history as a job. Once named Jeremiah Fellstone, he used joining the Forsaken as an opportunity to form a new identity for himself. Later, he meets his sister Janice, who, of course, returned the deed to the Fellstone lands. But he actually refused his ancestral lands and seemed happy enough to just continue his cockroach trade. So, perhaps Jeremiah was a bit of a money grubber in life and chose a simple undeath. Good, honest work, selling cockroaches in the bowels of the Undercity. But there's good news for Jeremiah. We evacuated him in the battle for Lordaeron. Still, I'm sure there'll be a market for the cockroach in whatever next comes for this guy. I'm kind of wondering how he farms them, where he stores them. Does he actually just walk around with a big bag of cockroaches? Probably. The final job is as difficult as it is off-the-wall crazy. The Castellan of Karazhan, Moraes. Khadgar thought Moraes so strange, he believed Medivh had mutated wild animals into the perfect servant. Yeah. But by the time Khadgar actually got to Karazhan, Moraes had already been deeply disturbed by the tower's many secrets. Moraes was friends with Medivh's mother, Egwene, you see, the original builder of Karazhan. He swore to her that he would look after Medivh and the tower, but he likely didn't understand what he was really signing up for, because Moraes is a total nutter. One day, he witnessed an illusion in the tower of him dropping the chef's favorite crystal plates. So from that day on, he took to wearing blinders, like a racehorse, so that he could only focus the task at hand. As Medivh then slipped into his madness, Moraes, trying to help out, organized galas and banquets to raise the Guardian's mood, which did work, but it was far too late because, of course, Medivh was possessed by Sargeras. The night, then, that Medivh opened the Dark Portal, Moraes was hosting the largest gala yet, with nobles from all over the kingdom. Egwene felt the portal open and came to Karazhan to confront her mad son. During their monstrous arcane duel, Medivh unleashed a blast wave so strong it killed everyone at the gala, save Moraes. Khadgar then tried to get Moraes out of Karazhan, but he had nowhere to go and was murdered by Medivh, who himself was quickly killed by Anduin Lothar. Master and servant then were buried together just outside the tower, but that was not the end of Moraes' terrible job, for he was raised into undeath by the Guardian to eternally repeat the final banquet. What a hellscape. We killed him, but then he turns up again as a garrison NPC in Warlords of Draenor. Shockingly, it seems Medivh cursed him as he's been killed over and over and over again, but mysteriously returns every time, eternally bound as the Castellan of Karazhan. Per Moraes. Maybe he'll find peace someday. So, Azeroth can be a brutal place, but there's usually a payoff, gold, experience. But there are so many who've got to do terrible jobs to keep our cities clean. Let's not even talk about Azerothian infrastructure and sewage and things like that. Some, though, are, of course, entirely pointless. So, if there's any you think deserve to be on this list, fire them into the comments below. We've got many more videos delving into the stranger parts of Azeroth. You can maybe tell, we're having fun. We're talking about the super weapons of Azeroth, so definitely check that video out. We're talking about which faction is the most powerful, the bloodiest battles in Azeroth's history, and many more. Because you know what? We've all spent a lot of time in Azeroth, so let's just have some damn fun with it. That's it for me. Have a wonderful day. I hope this entertained you and gave you a bit of a smile. I'll see you next time.